I want to talk to you about closers and managing closers. I promise you, this completely plain window will get more exciting as we go. I just thought I'd build it while we do it so that you can kind of see my thinking behind it. So one of the best things when it comes to closers, and this really should come at the point where you've got like consistent lead flow. They need to be You need to be booking meetings every single day. Probably ideally about 5 a day at least, like low end five. Just because these closers will get very aggy if you're not constantly feeding them. So lead flow is one of the key ones. You get to see how great my spelling is today. Awesome. Okay, what else have we got? So main thing is for internal checks is lead flow, and also that you've got like a clear offering. You don't want to be getting on and specking out every single call, being like, okay, well, we could do this or we could do that. Like, have an expectation of what you want to sell them, and then the closers can actually sell that. If you're just making it up each call, then it's not going to work. Obviously, if it's an automation build and something like that, they need the technical know-how to scope it out. So that's one of the key things you're going to have to look for when hiring. But also, I've hired closers who know nothing about automations and have closed and done a really good job. So just bear that in mind. It's it's the rule, not fact. So play around with it. Um, so once you've got lead flow, a clear offer, your next thing is going to be some kind of script. I'm not saying you necessarily need like a bullet point script, but we've found that if you can give closers something that like literally just bullet points down what needs to be covered, they will close more. And that's kind of one of the big things on there. The other thing that we've done is training. So we have no end of training materials. So every single one of our calls, whether it's a good call or a bad call, is recorded and they can see and view and make sure that they're happy with it. But the main thing that we're looking for is the ones that obviously went well and why they went well. And then we have a look at the ones that didn't go well, and then we look at why they didn't go well. And every single one of these things is noted. Like we actually have a tracker that has a list of every single call. In fact, let me pull it up so you can see it. Of every single call that's that we've ever given feedback on. Admittedly, we started doing this month, so there's literally like 20 odd calls. However, it gives you a bit of an idea of the number of calls that we've had and the feedback that we give people and the amount of detail that we go into with it. Because the more detail and the more points that you can give them to improve on, the better they will do. So here's our sales feedback tracker. Um, God, how am I going to show you this? So this is one of the pages as zoomed out as I could get it. So this goes on and on and on and on and on, but this is literally just the case of all of these are the feedback. That's the call recording, and then it's who's the feedback for, and what is the feedback, and who's given the feedback. So you've got call feedback, who gave the feedback, and so on. But as you can see, it is pages and pages of notes of things that they can improve on. We also have a tracker. So every single one of our closers gets a tracker. Once again, I'll zoom out so you can see what that looks like. Um, this zoom idea is a good idea, so you can't see every single email of the people that we've done. So as you can see, this is a call tracker. So we have, let me just read the columns to you so you can see. We have a date, so call number. So every single one of our calls have a number, weirdly enough. The date of which that call was, the name of the person it was, where the call was from, which is really important because we want to know where these leads are coming from so we can also track the close rate on the different calls. We then have what we pitch them for as a monthly cost, whether that's a retainer or a one-off. So it will literally say one-off or so on. This all gets calculated together in this little table here. And that's kind of really where the power comes in. So we can see exactly how much our deal value is and so on. We then look at the call length. So this is another key one. If I scan through and I can see that the call length is dropping and dropping and dropping, it tends to mean the closer is like giving up or doing something wrong, because there should be no reason why you've got 15 minutes calls. Most of these are an hour plus. They're at least 45 minutes plus. So a lot of that's kind of helpful to actually get people to the point where they close. We also have, what's the next one? Call recording link, obviously. Outcome of the call. So was it a follow up? Did they pay? Did you use the script? So we've given them the bullet points. As you can see, that's the script on there. Um, we have what kind of call it was. So what call was it? Was it a lead generation call? Was it an automation call? Was it your offerings? Really, that should be like one or two things max. Um, the closer's emotions, which you might be like, damn, why the hell do we need to know what their closers was feeling? Because you will notice a trend where they will go through a lose streak and they will get more and more frustrated and then they'll close. So what we do with that data is we know that on average after 7 bad calls they close. But we've also found if we tell them that, then they start stressing about that seventh call, and then if it's not a good fit or whatever, they'll like implode. So we keep that metric internal and we just know that, like, okay, they're on a bit of a losing streak here. How's that going to affect averages and everything else? So we're constantly keeping an eye on that. Um, but also it's a case that we can put that together. So if we know that they're feeling frustrated about it and then they close, how can we not make them feel frustrated, but how can we get them in the same mindset to close? And then the same thing goes for like winning streaks. So when when we have closers that do 5 back-to-back calls in one day, like today we had one closer who's only done half a day today, because he has a speed awareness course in the morning. He had 3 calls and closed 3 calls today, which is amazing. Yesterday he didn't close anything, but he's had 3 calls, closed 3 of them, which is amazing. Exactly what we want. But you can see why he's on that winning streak, and like you can see what emotions he's feeling during that process, so you can kind of like stimulate them internally. We then have objections. So what is their objection? Obviously not the closer's objection, but the person you're selling to. Um, and then the conclusion of the call. So this is just like, okay, does it need to be follow up? What's gone on? What was the overall conclusion? That can also be feedback. They can add any feedback of like, the guy was a terrible fit, he hated it, or he's seen Dan's TikTok and hates us and just came on the call to shout at us. Or it could be a case that like this is an excellent fit, however, um, he's currently working full time on another project to keep the lights on, so hasn't got the money, blah 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 blah. And then the final, no, I lied, there's a couple more tabs. There's a notes section, so obviously that's the big bulky one here, so you can have a look at all of the different notes, see what they thought. Like we do a bit of a summary of how the call went, everything else on them, and then we've got, did they cancel or rebook? So we can track cancel and no-show rate. Sorry, cancel and rebooking rate, and then a no-show column, and then whether or not they were a good fit. So we're tracking good fit rate or not as well. And then if we took a deposit, then that's a deposit column. So as you can see, we very rare we take a deposit. So that's kind of should give you a bit of an idea of what we're tracking with them. So once you've got them on, trained, run them through the sheets. In fact, we should probably add that so we don't forget. Sheets, output tracking. Sheets slash tracking. It's better. Okay, so once we've done that and everyone's happy, the other thing that's worth doing is call reviews. So watch calls back. The main thing here is to make sure that they are actually doing as they're told and rewarding that behavior. So when they've had a really good call, hype them up. And I always do this in a group chat. So we've got a closer chat. I don't do it in front of the setters because I don't feel like that's very fair. But feedback among closers is like really good, and it just starts that kind of conversation. And sometimes if they've done a terrible call, I will give them brutal feedback. I do a bit of a I can't say that word on YouTube. A bit of a sandwich where I say something nice, something not so nice, and then finish on something nice. So they'll read the first bit and be like, I really loved your pitch and Discovery was excellent. Discovery's normally excellent. Quite often, my only comments around Discovery is you could have dug a bit deeper and got a bit more ammo that you can use later on. Really, you'd have to get Discovery terribly wrong for me to rip you for that. So once I've done that, we've then got the different stages of the call. So you just go through and be like, okay, well, pitch was really good. This was bad. Da, 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 da. But I always finish on in summary. You missed this point. You missed that. You missed this. Da, 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 da. However, you did really well. The guy bought anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Or if they didn't buy, why didn't they buy? What to go and do now? So quite often I give them action points of like, well, why didn't you offer a payment plan? We had one of those today by one of the closers. The guy literally said, "Oh, do you do a payment plan? Because I haven't got the money up front now." He says, "Yeah, we do." And then pushed him for a deposit. I'm like, "What on earth are you doing? You don't take a deposit for a build slot. Take the take the payment plan and take 25% now, 25% on start of build, 25% on halfway through, and then 25% when it's done. They break it down and get the money off them. As long as the first payment covers our costs, or at least like the majority of the costs, and that's fine. The closer commissions are done on cash collected. So I don't care if the closer collects £100 up front and our costs are 99, as long as the rest comes in the rest of the way, because the closer will only get 10%, 20% of that. In fact, I can cover that with you as well. We pay all of our closers 10%. We used to pay 15, however, we found very little difference, and 10% is the sweet spot, especially with our ticket size. Like we did 7.5 grand today on one sale. So, swings and roundabouts. But yeah, one of the main things watching the calls back, I've been told by mentors and other agency owners and so on to watch, just like pick bits and watch it. I watched the whole entire call, mainly because I feel like I get a better understanding of that and I can give better feedback off the back of it. Yes, I can spend the same amount of time on the actual call with them and help them there, but the feedback's always going to be more valuable for them. And as long as I see them actioning it, so I keep a note, as you've seen, in the sales tracker, the feedback tracker of every single call and my thoughts on it and so on. So if they're ever off the mark on something, I'm like, I'm sure I've told them that before. They'll know about it, because I want to make sure that they're actually constantly improving instead of going backwards. If you're going backwards and not listening to me, I'm not going to give you feedback. We have also built an AI that gives feedback. So you can put a call recording transcript in and it will watch the call and then actually like give you feedback on it and email it over, which is quite cool. I've enjoyed playing with that and scoping it out. So yeah. What else did I want to cover with you? So that was really my main thing, was making sure that they do that. We give all of our closers access to Stripe so that they can make their own payment links and stuff like that as well. And we also they also have access to sign requests, which is what we use to sign contracts and agreements and stuff like that, so that they can scope them out there. And then they're responsible for phoning the leads if they don't show up. We have now implemented setters for some of our other lead generation systems, which works really well. But their setters are now taking over some of that follow up as well. So we can make sure that all of these people are booked back in and rescheduled if anybody doesn't show. So yeah, the hiring process for closers, which I've covered in other videos before, I've always found the best ones come from content. So I get a lot of people reach out to me and be like, "Look, I'd love to help you." They always have a really good foundational understanding of what an automation looks like, how it works, and so on, mainly because I've seen my content and stuff like that. So if that's not another reason to start posting content, I don't know what is. But if you can't do that, there's loads of sites that you can list jobs on and so on. So huge opportunities everywhere. Don't let that kind of stop you. Main thing when you're looking at calls, new closers, is looking at their past calls. They will pick their best calls. Like, no doubt about it, they'll pick their best calls. So always assume, like, if you're like, oh, I would have done this, I would have done that, and come up with a couple of things there and then that you'd improve on. Like a fair few that can't necessarily be coached. I would fear what their bad calls look like, and you'll quickly learn. One of the best things about closers is they can help you scale your business massively, and a good closer will literally make you a fortune. However, a bad closer will cost you a fortune. We've had bad closers before. We've probably spent about 7 grand of lead volume for a closer who was just terrible and wasn't worth sending any leads. But you kind of got to pick what point you're going to kill it off. The problem with him is you could see constant little bits of improvement, and he'd get closer and closer and closer. And then you turn around one day and he's like not pitching the offer, and it's like, what are you doing? We've put a script together for this, and you're now sat there waving your arms around talking about something else. So yeah, just stuff to watch as you go through. But I hope that was helpful. Any questions, as always, just let me know.